A common acid-base reaction between solutions of sodium hydroxide and hydrochloric acid will be used to demonstrate the technique of chemical titration. The flask contains a solution of hydrochloric acid. The buret contains the titrant, which in this case is the sodium hydroxide solution. The buret will be used to measure the amount of sodium hydroxide that completely reacts with the hydrochloric acid in the flask. The indicator phenolphthalein will be added to the flask to determine the endpoint of the titration. Phenolphthalein is colorless in acidic solutions and pink in basic solutions. We will stop adding sodium hydroxide at the first permanent, faint pink color in the flask. Add a couple drops of phenolphthalein to the solution of hydrochloric acid. Place the flask under the tip of the buret. A white background can be placed underneath the flask to enhance detection of color changes at the endpoint. Begin adding moderate increments of titrant to the flask. Periodically stop to rinse down the sides of the flask with solvent. This ensures that solution splashed on the walls is returned to the bottom of the flask where it can sufficiently react. A drop clinging to the tip of the buret can be removed by touching the drop to the side of the flask. Solvent is then used to wash the drop into the solution. When a faint pink color begins to appear, slow down the addition of titrant. Near the end point, titrant should be added a drop at a time. The end point has been reached when the first permanent color change occurs. A color change that lasts longer than 30 seconds is usually considered permanent. The color change at the end point should be as faint as possible to prevent over-titration. It is often helpful to use an untitrated solution as a comparison. The amount of titrant required to reach the endpoint is determined by subtracting the initial volume of titrant from the final volume of titrant.